Good evening. Welcome all to the regular May meeting of the Costa Mesa Parks Arts and Community Services Commission. It is May 23rd, 2019, and at this time I will call the meeting to order. I would ask that you all rise for the pledge and join me. Please place your hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Item 3, roll call. Chair McNabb.
Present.
Commissioner DeSico.
Present.
Commissioner Erickson.
Present.
Commissioner Rutherford.
Present.
The record will reflect that Commissioner Fay is absent. Item 4, approval of the minutes of the April 25th, 2019 meeting of the PACS Commission.
At this time, do any members of the commission have any modifications, additions, or comments on the minutes? Commissioner Rutherford.
Thank you, Chair McNabb. I did want to make one adjustment to the minutes on page 3. We were discussing about the Lions Park approval project, and in my comments, I believe I indicated a specific request for the city to meet the 3-to-1 planting ratio requirement in the Lions Park project. And I was wondering if that could be included in the official minutes for the record.
I move to approve the minutes with Commissioner Rutherford's amendment.
I second that.
Call for the question.
The motion carries 4-0.
Thank you.
Item 5, public comment.
To ensure fair and equal treatment of all who appear before the Parks and Arts and Community Services Commission and to expedite city business, speakers will be limited to 3 minutes during public comments. The 3-minute per speaker limit may be extended for good cause by the chairperson or by a majority vote of the commission. Please fill out a speaker card, hand it to the commission secretary, and state your name and the city of residence for the record. And at this time, I will open public comments. Please come to the microphone if you would like to address the commission. Making it easy on us. Okay. At this time, seeing no comments, I will close public comments. At this time, we will have commissioner comments, and I will start this month with Commissioner Rutherford.
Thank you, Chair McNabb. Thank you, everyone, for coming out this evening. I think all of us appreciate feedback and materials that are emailed and sent to us beforehand. That public input is really valuable for making decisions, especially on items that ourselves are not experts on, so really appreciate that. I did also want to say something that's been really personally encouraging for me. I don't know if you've all been following the city's social media, where different stories of residents that have gone through the new shelter program have been shared. And that is really heartwarming and touching to me, to put a face on who these people are, their fathers, mothers, sons, sisters, brothers. They're really our neighbors here. And so to see those people getting help and getting back on their feet is really encouraging, and I hope you all will check that out. I also just wanted to share a concern about the 1253A park permit policy, where groups of more than 10 persons are supposed to have a permit if they're doing any kind of free use in the park. And I think that's somewhat limiting for uses of our parks. You know, if it's a beautiful day and you're wondering why there's not a crowd of people in the park, maybe that's why. So I'm hoping that that's something the commission will take up and explore at a future date. So that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner DeCiccio?
Yeah, I just want to welcome everyone here tonight. I thank you for your outreach and interest in our city. It's good to see. I just want to remind everyone we are starting opening for the new library tomorrow. There will be a ceremony, so that's been a big project for our city. And as well as some of the encouragement I've received about the new Lions Park project, and that seems like an exciting one as well. I think I sent a picture to you, Allison, right? Is that up there? There was a renaming of a field actually at one of the schools, which the school district approved, and it was for just a member of our community who was very committed just to the recreation for youth. And I thought that was a very kind gesture of our school district to name that after him. His name is Keith Franey, and he was someone very committed to just the youth getting outdoors and engaging in recreation. And he passed away actually at a young age. I think he was around 50 years old in the middle of a soccer game doing the sport he loved and the sport that he encouraged many youth in. And I think that's just a great gesture of people that are committed to our community and people that are helping the youth engage within our outdoors rather than with electronics. And I really appreciated that, that gesture of the school district for that.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Erickson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do we have visuals? No, probably not. Okay. That's okay. That's okay. Well, no problem. First off, just another reminder, I said it at the last meeting, but this looks like an awesome event being put on by the city. It's called Kites and Bites. It's coming up June the 7th. It's from 4 to 7:30 p.m. Maybe you can put that on camera, but it looks like a really cool family event. Get a chance to come out, have dinner in the park, build a kite for the first 100 families that show up. So nice, just a really kind of fun family event at Lions Park. So that's coming up. Put on your calendar. Come and join us, and I'm looking forward to that. I noticed on the the minutes, the agenda, that the Soaring Society is on our topic for this evening, and I didn't know too much about them, but I happened to be at this event called Imaginology back in March at the fairgrounds, and the Soaring Society was there, and to the point the other commissioner made about like getting out and not being tied to a phone or a coding exercise or a television screen. There was a lot of that at Imaginology, but my kids kind of gravitated towards the flying planes, and one older gentleman was really, really kind and patient with my kids, 4 and 6 years old, and taught them how to, make a paper airplane and the science around lift and how, airplane wings are a lot like bird wings, and this is how you can control a plane. It was fascinating, and my kids, they stuck to it. So you're a good teacher. They've been making airplanes at home, and they each made a kite recently. So thank you for doing that. That was a really cool event at Imaginology. I had some pictures of the event, but that was a couple of the models that the kids and that the instructors had made. That was one that we were trying to make, and then I think I have a picture. Well, you get the idea. It was a great experience for my kids, and I just appreciate the service. So thanks. That's all I had.
Thank you very much. And I would like to also mention that the I Heart Costa Mesa Day of Service on Saturday was a huge success. It was really inspiring to see over 700 members of the city of Costa Mesa come together to work on, I believe, 36 service projects throughout the city at several of our city's parks, Fairview Park, Canyon Park, and I know at many of the schools, and even at some individual community members' homes that are perhaps too elderly to maintain those shelters on their own. So I would like to thank Trellis and Rose Equities and also all the city staff and all of the volunteers. They really do an exceptional job of making it a multi-generational event. There were children there. There were, every range of the age that you can see in our city. It was really wonderful to see people coming together and how much they're invested in making Costa Mesa a wonderful place for families and community to live. So that was an exceptional event during the month of May, and also enjoyed the dog adoption at Bark Park this month. They had the costume contest. I saw a little shark dog, and I saw a little wiener dog. It was really a fun time, and we're always happy when we can partner with the Priceless Pets in order to help rescue some of these animals that need forever homes. And at this time, I will close commissioner comments. Thank you.
Item 7, consent calendar, no items. Presentation item 8A, Parks and Community Services, Summer 2019 Program and Services Preview.
Thank you, Allison. Good evening, Chair McNabb and commissioners and members of the public. I'm excited to share the Parks and Community Services Summer 2019 Programs and Services Preview this evening. At our April 2019 meeting, the Commission received a summary review of the winter 2019 season and will also receive a summary review of the spring 2019 season in the coming weeks. However, with the anticipated summer programming gearing up for the summer, we wanted to share and highlight what's to come in a few weeks. The department's busiest time of year is upon us, and staff have been working diligently to offer an array of programs and services that span across a variety of ages and integrates the use of several facilities and spaces in our city. First and foremost, this has already been mentioned, we invite everyone to join us on May 24th at 10 a.m., that's tomorrow, as we celebrate the completion of Phase 1 of the Lions Park projects. The library ribbon-cutting event will feature light refreshments, guided tours, and a time capsule. Come see how the new Lions Park project will benefit you and your family and learn about the wonderful activities that are planned to enjoy the new library and event lawn space for the 2019 summer. Speaking of the event lawn, the Lions Park space that sits in front of the lawn is going to be programmed for reactivation of a space that's been missed by several community members. Activities include a special Kites and Bites, as was mentioned earlier, an event on June 7th, a pet adoption event on June 8th, and the official opening weekend will culminate with a special sip and paint event on Sunday, June 9th. Visit the Costa Mesa Lions Park's calendar online to keep informed on ongoing activities and programs that are scheduled to take place this summer, some of which feature speaking programs with the library. To help us kick off the summer at Lions Park, the Costa Mesa Summer Kickoff event will be taking place on June 22nd. Games, activities, and crafts will be offered by mobile recreation, contract instructors, and a variety of local businesses. The event is open to all ages and is intended to introduce the west side of Costa Mesa to some of the great program offerings offered throughout the city. Then, on June 29th, get your bikes and helmets and join us for a bike rodeo from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Technicians from thecyclist.com will be providing basic safety checks and helmet fittings for pre-registered participants. The bicycle safety check will then be followed by Costa Mesa PD's instruction of how to properly and safely ride your bike. The ever-popular Summer Movies in the Park series makes a comeback on Friday, June 28th at Lions Park, when the Lego Movie 2, the second part, will be shown. Bring your blanket or lawn chair for a warm summer evening in your local park for some free movie showings. Recreation staff will be on site to ensure that movie watchers get to enjoy a variety of games, crafts, and raffle prizes. The Summer Movies in the Park series will feature 2 additional showings on Friday, July 26th at Lions Park, and will feature Ralph Breaks the Internet, and the final movie showing of the summer will take place at Tewinkle Park on Friday, August 16th, and will feature the movie Mary Poppins Returns. All activities, including food trucks, will begin at 5:45 p.m., and the movies will begin at dusk. Mobile recreation will continue to make its way through the city at various parks Monday through Friday from 2:30 to 5:30 p.m. and on Saturdays from 11 to 2 p.m. The mobile recreation van will also make special appearances at a variety of special events and programs, including the Concerts in the Park series. Join us in this free drop-in program and where participants may come and go freely. We provide recreational activities within the neighborhoods and parks in the city. The Summer Rocks is a recreational program that provides games, arts and crafts, water days, enrichment activities, and more. Optional fee-based excursions will also be available throughout the summer. The program takes place at the Belair Community Center, the Downtown Recreation Center, and Sonora Elementary School, and takes place Monday through Friday from 11 to 4, and is designed for the youth entering 1st through 6th grade. This summer, participants will have the opportunity to visit a variety of places, including, participate in a variety of activities, including concourse bowling, visiting an arcade, visiting a trampoline park, and a water park. The Ranch program offers children the opportunity to learn about where food and fiber come from when they get an introduction to basic gardening skills and caring for livestock, animals in the heart of Costa Mesa. This year's camp runs from August 21st through the 30th and is held as usual at the Centennial Farm at the OC Fairgrounds. Registration for the program is currently open. Summer Camp Costa Mesa is also taking place at Estancia Park this summer and will run June 24th through August 23rd. Campers have the opportunity to enjoy a fun, interactive, and memorable experience alongside their friends and the best counselors around. Be Fit is a fun and free physical wellness summer program at the Belair Community Center and Downtown Recreation Center for youth entering 1st through 6th grade. As part of the Be Fit program, we offer the Happy Feet Running Club. This program is free and open to youth. The program is designed to teach short and long distance running techniques in a fun, non-competitive environment. Participants practice twice a week beginning June 12th through August the 4th, and the program will conclude with participants partaking in the OC Fair Kids 5K run on August the 4th. Summer Teen Camp still has a few spots available for any teens entering 7th through 10th grade. The program runs June 24th through August 4th, and takes place at T. Winkle Middle School. Teens will have the opportunity to visit Universal Studios, various beaches, and visit Recreation this summer, where they'll get to engage in some friendly, fun, active competition. And we all know it's not really summer until you get to take a dip in the pool. Stay cool this summer at the Downtown Aquatic Center. Registration for instructional classes begins next Tuesday, the day after Memorial Day, at the Downtown Rec Center. The season kicks off on June 24th. Session dates can be found on the city's website. As part of the aquatics program, the Aquatic Center will once again participate in the world's largest swim lesson on Thursday, June 20th from 4 to 4:40. It's a free event and a unified effort to get kids to learn how to swim. The Downtown Recreation Center's adult basketball leagues are designed to provide a fun and competitive experience while accommodating teams of various skill levels. Leagues are offered Monday through Wednesday evenings, and there are the teams play a 10-game season. The Summer League begins on Monday, July 8th. The Senior Center will also be hosting its ever-popular Independence Day event, which will be a luau-style theme party this year. The event includes lunch and allows participants to enjoy America's birthday celebration with some great music, food, and a special visit from our public safety personnel, which is always a great hit. The event is on Friday, June 28th, and begins at 11:30 a.m. Additionally, the Senior Center has taken their spelling bee to the next level this year by opening participation to allow all spellers between the ages of 9 to infinity on Saturday, July 20th. The event is free and offers opportunity for there to be some generational competition. And as we start getting into the fall months, the Costa Mesa Cultural Arts Committee is proud to host the 5th annual Art Venture event. This free 2-day cultural arts event is scheduled for September 6th and 7th at the Segerstrom Center for the Arts in the beautiful multi-tiered glass lobby of the Renee and Henry Segerstrom's Concert Hall. Currently, there's a call for artists for the event. Be sure to submit your entry to be considered for the showcase no later than July 5th, which is the artist submission deadline. And join us at Fairview Park on June 1st for National Trails Day from 9 to 11 a.m. This event at Fairview Park is focused on the many trail experiences available to the park users, trail education and stewardship, as well as gathering input on trail planning for the future. Information about the new volunteer program will also be rolled out on this day and includes great education and information about Costa Mesa's unique city gem. And finally, the Summer 2019 Recreation Guide was delivered to all households in Costa Mesa earlier this month. Flip through the digital recreation guide online to see what classes are being offered, which offers additional programs, contract classes, and activities. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aguilar. That is an amazing array of activities. I mean, there is so much going on, and we'd like to thank staff for all the work they do for providing everything that goes into these events. That's a lot of really wonderful public benefit. So thank you. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Aguilar? Commissioner
Madam Chair.
Erickson.
Just a quick clarification on the Happy Feet Club. Did you say for kids entering 1st grade that could begin the
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And we are, are we at the old business? Are we done?
Item 9, old business, no items. New business, item 10A, approval of the new use agreement with the Harbour Soaring Society for the use of a portion of Fairview Park.
Okay. At this time, I believe our Fairview Park Administrator, Cynthia DAgosta, will be giving the presentation.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners, for having us this evening. I'd like to start, I have provided a couple of slides, but I'd like to do a little background first before I jump into those. So we are here this evening for approval of a new agreement with the Harbour Soaring Society, which has been with Fairview Park before the city owned Fairview Park, has been active out there since the 60s, as I understand it. And the agreement is with the Harbour Soaring Society. I want to clarify that we have over 300 permitted uses out there, and very few of those, actually, I think it's less than 50, are actually HSS members. So we'll get into a conversation about how that affects the item tonight. So the recommendation this evening with staff is that the council approve, or the commission approve. Actually, let me back up a bit. I'm thinking of the city council already. That the commission makes a recommendation to the city council on June 18th. City council will consider this item. And so this commission will make a recommendation to city council. And the recommendation that we took to the Fairview Park Steering Committee is what we're bringing forward this evening for the commission to approve this new updated use agreement with the Harbour Soaring Society for the period of 1 year. And that second item in that is that you recommend to City Council that a comprehensive evaluation be done of the value of the partnership between HSS and the city, as well as the use itself, and take time to evaluate the use, and then come back to to the steering committee, this commission, and council next year at this time for a reconsideration of a longer term agreement if the studies show that we want to do that. So, as I said, the background is that the Harbour Soaring Society has been there for decades. The city in 2007 created a permit agreement for any flyers that are not members of HSS to be permitted by the city. And so, again, we have a little over 320 permits that are flying there. One of the changes that has taken place within the time frame is that the hobby itself, due to technology, has changed. And when the original agreements were written for HSS in the city, it was primarily gliders that were flown out in the park. And the hobby has changed now. The technology has brought in radio-controlled aircraft as well as drones. And so the city has kept up with the ordinances and the permitting process for the increase in those uses as well. That has been done at the same time that the city has begun to emphasize habitat restoration at the park. And that now poses a challenge in terms of the compatibility of the uses potentially. So we have gotten recommendations and requests to do a study on whether or not the uses are compatible still. So again, that is why we're asking for a year to actually take a look at it and then come back with recommendations based on the compatibility of that. With that, I think I'll do a couple of slides if I can. So this first slide, is it up? I can't see the screen, so, oh, shoot. No, it went forward. I want to go back. These arrows. Okay. So what you're seeing here, the red outline is the Fairview Park, 208 acres of the Fairview Park. The yellow outline here is the Harbour Soaring Society's general area of both runway and flight, glider takeoff and ancillary. They have some tables out there and things. Gosh darn it, this is really sensitive, isn't it? And then the blue outlines that you see are where the vernal pool complexes are. So you can see that there has begun to be some overlap, and I will drill down on this in the next slide. Sorry, there. And then the black dotted outline is the general area of influence and where the flyers do take airspace. And so that takes up a good portion of the Upper Mesa. Any questions on that? Is that clear? Okay. So then this then drills down a little bit. This is the fly field map that is posted at the fly field and is in the rules and regulations that all permittees receive and have to review. So again, the yellow outline area you can see is the general area of the fly field and ancillary areas. And then, again, these areas are the vernal pool areas, and the restoration that has been occurring, well, first, let me find my, I have a little animation on here, but now I don't see the, oh, shoot, where to, Yep. Well, this is a different layout here. I'm sorry, I'm not able to see the, What I had in here, and I'm not able to pull it up here, I guess, is in this general area, this is vernal pool 1 here, and this is vernal pool 4. There is a connecting area that has begun to grow between these two pools so that there is a stretch of vernal pool between these two now. And so what we have been doing for the last 2 years now is in the wet season having to close this down so the fly field in this area cannot be used while the vernal pools are full, and we know that there is fairy shrimp there. They can be used in the dry season, however, a longer term plan is to create more of a raised trail in here, if you will, a boardwalk, so that we can use it year-round and not just seasonally. But that doesn't deal with the fly field area. And then vernal pool 1, we began restoration in the northern area of it here. There's still a lot of restoration to be done down in here. This is vernal pool 5, 6, and 7, which we will begin restoration on this year. And then in vernal pool 4 area, we will begin some restoration on the watershed area of the pools around it. So there will be active restoration starting as early as this year and probably continuing for a few years in this area. Okay, sorry that the animation didn't come through there. There it is. There's the connector. There we go. And then this vernal pool 1, that's where the restoration has occurred. 5, 6, and 7 will be doing this year, and then part of the watershed for 4 we're going to begin. So the next slides, really what I wanted to do was just talk a little bit about what the steering committee had recommended and what we're asking the commission then to move forward on, is what we want to look at is the value of the partnership, as I said, and the compatibility of all flying activity within the master plan, within the context of the steering committee reviewing the master plan. And when I say all flying activity, that gets back to the fact that tonight we're just talking about an agreement between HSS and the city, and we have over 300 flyers out there, which we need to do some public outreach with. That we have not had the opportunity to do. My conversations have been primarily with HSS in the process of developing their agreement. So the steering committee's recommendations is that it's the evaluation be done in the context of the master plan revisions. Oh my goodness. The master plan revisions, future restoration efforts, and a full review of the use, all of the current uses that are going on. And then these are just some of the considerations that we would take in that have been mentioned so far. There's going to be many others, but these are the considerations we'd be looking at in the year that we review it. And then I wanted to just spend a minute with the concept of drones out at the field now. So this is the definition of model aircraft as it is in the city ordinance. Model aircraft means all forms of radio-controlled gliders, electric motor gliders, electric-powered model airplanes, and electric helicopters. Then it goes on to say no free-flight models or toy planes. But the important part is this electric helicopters and the definition of model aircraft. This is from the Soaring Society's use agreement that was in 2014 and what you're considering tonight. The same term of model aircraft, which includes the electric helicopters and/or drones. Now, explanation and research that we've done so far is that the definition of the term drone is a quadcopter, or it's a helicopter with a more than one propeller on it. So this all got included into the definition of model aircraft, which takes it beyond the gliders. That's why I'm mentioning it. That is the end of the extent of the slides, and I can answer any questions. I hope that, I want to say that there is a lot of history to this, and so there are going to be a lot of questions, I'm sure. I'll answer them to the best of my ability, but one of the reasons for asking for an extension is so that we can, again, fully research it.
Thank you very much. I will, at this time, open it up to public comment. If there are members of the public that would like to make comments, you may come to the microphone to address the commission. You have 3 minutes if you would like to. Welcome. Yes, please.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the subject. My name is John Anderson. I am presently the Harbour Soaring Society General Director. I was in the past. I took a little respite, and I'm back. I still have a lot of energy for my age, and there's a lot of things I can still do, I think, of value. I'm also an aerospace education officer with the Civil Air Patrol, the Air Force Auxiliary. I'll be doing, for example, some teaching up at Edwards for about a week to young people. It's what I like, and I enjoy it, and I think I hopefully do it well. I'm also an avid model aviation enthusiast. I'm going on 83, and so for most of my life, my sights have been set in the sky. And a lot of that enjoyment comes from the use of Fairview Park, and it's quite a resource. I'll occasionally have to read my notes. There were two things, I believe, that were introduced into the description of what the action is going to be, and one of them was partnership, and the other was values. And I'd like to speak briefly to both. Partnership, we already have a partnership in the sense that we have a partnership with the city. I think it could be much improved from our point, and I'm sure the city would feel the same. We also have a partnership with the Civil Air Patrol. There is an agreement, an organizational agreement between the Civil Air Patrol and the Academy of Model Aeronautics, and we're part of that agreement. But there are other agreements and other partnerships as well. We have, for example, a partnership with the Air Force, but we also have a partnership with Orange County Unified School District and Orange County Parks. We've made presentations and are working on agreements with both of those organizations in terms of trying to sustain and expand model aviation as part of the overall STEM experience and the recreational experience. Values. There's a lot of values that one could see in something like this, and certainly the values include education, recreation, public safety, if you will, and looking ahead to drones or quadcopters, whatever term you wish to use. I'm sure that most of you understand that that's going to be a huge industry with many, many applications and many job and employment opportunities, and we'd like to be able to offer something in that regard to set people on that path. I, for one, and there are several others here, are drone instructors. Our captain of our squadron, former captain of our squadron in Costa Mesa, is the drone instructor at Orange Coast College and can offer some beneficial instruction to the community. I myself do that kind of thing. I just went through Sea-Base with 60 kids not too long ago, assembling drones and flying them successfully. Beyond that, I think there's opportunities for, be it students from, if you will, elementary right on through UCI. UCI is an award-winning design, build, fly program, international, and they do a lot of their design and build and fly, and certainly their testing at Fairview Park. It's essential to their academic career. In addition, there's the seniors. My goodness, I see a few seniors in this room. I don't have to look very far, so there are certainly seniors, the general public, and I might also add that there's opportunities, I think, in terms of both support and services to, as we had done before, approach your fire and police and offer them either supplemental services or training services. And we just had a recent incident where our captain flying his quadcopter was able to fill in for the Huntington Beach police copter for an incident right here in Costa Mesa.
Okay.
By way of
Thank you very
example.
much, Mr. Anderson. If you could wrap it up, your time is
Okay,
expired.
good.
Thank
Examples
you.
of what we can do. Trails Day. You have a Trails Day coming up. We could provide aerial coverage of that, and I think it would be a very dynamic presentation you could make. And vernal ponds. We know all about vernal ponds. First of all, I'm an award-winning environmental and urban planner, retired. And we did the aerial photographs for Banning Ranch that nailed that before the Coastal Commission. We've also done that for the Huntington Beach Wetlands Conservancy, and we've done studies for you and would like to do some more so that we could be of service and of value. That's about it. Any questions, comments?
Thank you very much.
My
Does
pleasure.
anyone have any questions for Mr. Anderson? Thank you. Are there any other members of the public that would like to?
My name is Henry Smith. I reside in Tustin. I'm currently the Vice President of the Harbour Soaring Society, and I'd just like to tell the Commission that we're really looking forward to working with the city to come up with a new agreement to keep the field in place and continue to have this resource. One of the things I do for the Soaring Society is I'm an instructor. I've literally had the students from 8 to 88. My 88-year-old student is still flying. He's now 93, and he comes out to the field almost every day and flies his little airplane for an hour or so and then goes home. And well, I got a long letter from one of my students today that he wanted me to read in front of the commission. It was a wonderful letter. I'll send it to Cynthia. It's really cute. He's 15 years old. He wants to be a fighter pilot. He's really, really into model aviation. And another one of my students is here in the room. Hopefully we can get him to give you a few words later. But it's a really, really interesting and challenging hobby for young people, and it'll lead a few of them on into air aviation, just like it did. Neil Armstrong got his original interest in aviation with a control line model airplane because he couldn't afford a radio. Like me, that's how I got started. But it's an interesting hobby. It's not for everyone. It's challenging. And it can be very rewarding in the long term if you go off to engineering school or become an airline pilot or something. So I know quite a few aero engineers and a few pilots, and almost all of them got their initial interest in aviation with model airplanes. And so that's where your future pilot pool and engineer pool is coming from, is people that play with model airplanes. Because it's a lot more complicated than one might think, and you can learn a lot with model airplanes. Yeah, so anyway, we really, really do look forward to working with Cynthia and her wonderful staff to come up with an agreement that works for everybody. It needs to work for the city, and it needs to allow the users of the park to enjoy it in a helpful and beneficial way and safe way. So, and I myself truly believe we can do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Welcome. Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kim Hendricks. I'm a Costa Mesa resident, and I love Fairview Park, and I have nothing against aeronautics and flying. My father was in the Air Force for many years, and I actually teach science in Newport Mesa, and last week we were making model airplanes and flying them. So let that be known that I have nothing against flying. I love flying, and it is a great way to engage students in science. But you don't need radio-controlled airplanes to do that. I mean, working with the gliders, they had a lot of fun, and they learned the principles even actually better. What I want to say is that just because the Harbour Soaring Society has been there for many years doesn't mean that it's okay. That's an invalid argument. The city was dumping debris for many years. The city ignored Fairview Park for many years. So that doesn't mean it's okay. And the reality is that the AMA safety code says that it should be 25 feet from the public and 250 the flying area with high-powered radio-controlled airplanes, and that's not happening at Fairview Park still. They go into the vernal pools quite frequently. In fact, I have a broken one at my house that I don't know I was going to bring it to the city council meeting last year, but I never did. And also, I was just out there Saturday, and there was a military one, and it was flying so fast and low we had to duck. The main point is that Fairview Park is a nature park, and it's been degraded for many years. There are endangered species there that are barely hanging on. So that's really the point I'm trying to make, that the birds of prey have been kicked out of there by the planes. The gliders, which are permitted in the Fairview Park Master Plan, page 33, I'm sure you all got my email, it does say that they're gliders allowed. So the city has been violating that as well, and the city also says that in their permit application that they're supposed to comply with the AMA safety code, but they don't even do that themselves because the runway is right next to the pedestrian trail. Now, I count up, there's not 300 permit applications, there's only about 160. So 133 non-resident, 28 resident. That's in the report. So, and those are, so we have 28 residents that fly there with permit applications. So I think it's very important to do research and realize that that's a vernal pool right there that has been graded, which is against the state law. Environmental impact reports, the city once again didn't do. They just went and mowed it right next to the vernal pools, breaking laws right there. Also with CEQA, they didn't follow CEQA, California Environmental Quality Act. There are so many problems that this should have been stopped years ago. And there, you don't need another year in order to evaluate. If you go out there any given weekend, and all you got to do is take the Fairview Park Master Plan and read it. And that's another thing. The last Fairview Park Steering Committee, these new committee members got the Fairview Park Master Plan and hadn't even had a chance to read it. How can you make a recommendation when you don't even know what it says?
Ms. Hendricks, if you have something. Okay. Good evening, welcome.
Hi, my name is Justin Tam, and I'm currently a junior in high school at Portola High in Irvine. And I've been an AMA member and a member of Harbour Soaring Society since I was 12 years old. And this hobby, it's taught me, it's important to me as an individual because it is my sanctuary, because it's high school, first of all, so it's a rough week of nonstop tests and homework every day, and I just love going to Fairview Park every weekend to just fly with these lovely folks and just meeting people at the park and just having fun with everyone. And this hobby has helped me since I was 12, because at 12 years old, let me tell you, at home I was a video gamer. I was 24/7 just playing, but after that, after model aviation, it's gotten me outside the house, flying, playing basketball, everything. So now I'm a much more active person. Not only has the hobby physically impacted me, it also has positively mentally impacted my friends. For example, one of my close friends is suffering from severe anxiety at the moment, and he uses model aviation at the park as an outlet to feel stress-free and relieved from all this just cumulative stress all the time. And he loves the hobby, and Harbour Soaring Society has welcomed with open arms himself, and he just loves the people there. And it's great to see that, like Henry, he taught me, and he's been helping out other children from all ages for free, in fact, to get people interested in this hobby. And without amazing teachers like Henry at Harbour Soaring Society, I would have never learned the hobby, first of all, and we would have never followed these guidelines for safety, for our practice, and for our fun. And I would have never found such a safe outlet and to keep me after this hard work at school. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. We appreciate your perspective very, very much. Thank you.
I'll keep it short.
Oh, sure. You've
Hi,
got
I'm
3
Norma.
minutes if you
Okay,
like.
I'm Norma Tam. I'm also from Irvine. I'm his mom. and driver. I want to share with you why this is so important to me. And as a mother and engineer myself, and I love the outdoor, we always walk around when he's flying for an hour and a half on Saturday morning. The planes or whatever that's in the air, they're never close to where we walk. And if he drops the airplanes in vernal fall, he'll be dead because it's not cheap. So it does not happen. No one ever wants to drop anything into that pool. But I do want to share with you, this is very, very important to me because I talk about passion in high school all over Irvine and talk about what true passion looks like. And that's what education really is. And this is for the first time I saw passion in its reality, in his actual form, where he doesn't have to be pushed, he just does it. He builds airplane, not just paper airplane. He volunteered at Imagineering. He was the guy that was doing that little floating plane thing. And he came home and just kept talking about it. And he would go to the garage, like the old days, no one does that anymore, and build airplanes with electronic. So electronic is important. It is electrical engineering in its reality. All these communication, Wi-Fi and all that, it's their reality. We cannot avoid it. So I'm very proud of them. And he actually started a club in high school called AMA Club. And he's actually got awarded and elected as this year's AMA Youth Leadership, headquartered in Muncie, Indiana. So the reason for that is because he is evangelizing the love of flying, why it's important, how do you get kids out of addiction to social media, which I see all the time, and electronic games. He doesn't play Fortnite. So it is important. I mean, to me, this is really the outlet. I finally found an answer to this problem that I had when he was addicted to video game. I was a working mom. I couldn't tell whether he's working on homework or he's working on game. So now I know he's playing a simulator on how to fly and take off. So by the time they go take off in this field, they already practiced 1,000 times at home. So it's a very safe takeoff and safe landing. And Henry and all the safety officer make sure that happen. So to me, it's almost like a military experience here. They all go by the rule. There's a very strict rule, what you say, what you do in hand gesture. I don't understand it. But it's a very safe exercise. So with that said, I just want you to really consider how important this is for this generation. I can't speak enough of how kind these gentlemen are. This is truly multi-generation, multi-social economic activities, and it's a passion across all of us. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to make a public comment?
I've been having trouble hearing all evening. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Dave Merriweather. I'm a resident of Laguna Woods Village, but I do have a daughter that lives in Costa Mesa. I'm also the Associate Vice President of District 10 of the Academy of Model Aeronautics, or the AMA. And my area of responsibility is Orange County, and that's where we are. The AMA is a national organization that has over 200,000 members, young and old, including me. And they have 2,400 clubs across the country. And as the city is well aware, the AMA provides the insurance coverage that you need to protect you from liability on the flying field. So that's one of the functions that we do. But the value of flying models is bigger than we think about very often. Most of the military pilots, most of the civilian pilots, most of the astronauts, and most of the aeronautical engineers all started with model airplanes. Most of them have been AMA members. Commissioner Erickson was talking about the fun his kids had. Kids can be an AMA member with all of the benefits of that at no charge until they're 18 years old. So I need to see you. I have two studies that I brought with me that deal with the impact of model aviation on birds, in particular raptors. I myself got the flying site at the Great Park for the Orange Coast Radio Control Club. And when we first got out there hadn't been airplanes in the air for a while. And I was flying mine one evening and a raptor came down from miles away, it seemed. He was just a little black spot when I first saw him. Looked at my airplane, and then he just flew away. After that, they started flying with us. So we don't scare them away. We coexist with them. And one of these studies covers that pretty well. The other one talks about other places where the AMA has put in flying sites in national parks across the country, city parks, and things of that nature, and the impact that it has on the bioregion of those areas. We don't have as much impact on that as bird watchers do or casual hikers do, because they can go almost anywhere they want on or off trails. We have to stay in an area where it's safe flying, and we want to protect our equipment, of course. So these are the advantages that the AMA has that it instills in all of its members. And I strongly recommend that the city do this year's extension and let us all study the impact of this all the way around and see how valuable it can be for the city. Thank you. And I have copies for the commissioners here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Merriweather. Is there anyone else? Please step to the microphone. Thank you.
I'll leave it out here. You only got one.
Aha, okay, great.
Thanks.
Hi, good evening, welcome.
Hi, my name's John Rittenhouse. I'm a longtime resident of Costa Mesa. I've lived here since the mid-'60s, and I am the president of the Harbour Soaring Society. I was elected last January. So I don't have some of the legacy and historical information that some of the other people that have spoken, but I think all of us have a lot of passion for what we do, and that's not to say that some of the other folks on the other side don't have passion for what they're interested in as well, the flora, the fauna, little critters and everything else. I think what we would like to do is come up with a win-win solution, really. If it doesn't work for everybody, it doesn't work for anybody. And as the Fairview Park Administrator has suggested, and the Fairview Park Steering Committee has ruled on already, a one-year evaluative process, period, where we can talk and express what your needs are, what our needs are, and collaborate and maybe a win-win synergistic answer that benefits everyone. As you probably noticed, we didn't have a formal presentation. I kind of figured really that respectful out of your time and really merciful out of your time, that you probably already knew most of everything I was going to say and didn't want to hear the rest of it. So I thought probably a better utilization of time would be that I would stand up here towards the end of the presentation. And if you had any specific questions, I know you've heard a lot in the last 40 minutes or so, you could ask me, and if I can't answer it, I'll pull from the audience here or some of our other members. Maybe they can better answer it rather than me just verbatim give you a canned speech of what's going on. And the bottom line, what I would like to say really is, like I already said, we want a win-win solution. I think we have a lot of collaborative organizations, the CAP, the AMA, and other organizations, the Air Force, that want to collaborate with a winning solution for everybody. And I had other things to say, but in the spotlight of public speaking, I forgot. So I'm going to leave it at that and then ask you if you have any particular questions for me or anyone else. And if you don't conjure it up right now, I can provide my contact information. I can meet in your office or some other time, other place.
Thank
and
you.
I'll leave it to you if you have any specific questions for me.
Great, thank you for your participation. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a question. One thing that was brought up earlier was the 250 feet overhead fly area from the public. If you could speak on that in terms of safety.
Well, I think that the context of that was some AMA regulation. And if that, in fact, is the case, I would probably refer to Dave on that. He's the AMA representative for tonight. The only other thing I would say that we are currently capped by the FAA to 400 feet. That's an FAA regulation, and that's height in height. And that's what we currently abide by. Is
And
that?
I think Ms. DAgosta can help answer that question for us.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
can try to answer that question. We do have a limitation of 400 feet in height. I think that what Ms. Hendricks is referring to, what I could find today to respond, is a recommended RC flying site specifications that the AMA puts out. It's recommendations, and it clearly says that an additional 250-foot safety zone added to the overfly area, which basically is the black area that you're seeing, is desirable if possible. But it is not, I don't see it in the AMA regulations. But again, these are the very detailed things that we would like the opportunity to explore together.
And, you know, I would like to add as well, that's the whole purpose of the evaluative period, right? I think the steering committee has already adjudicated on that. We've worked considerably with Cynthia since December 18th, I remember that day very well, in trying to formulate a collaborative solution. So that really what we're asking is, if we could just go with the program, go for the year, evaluate, you know, a win-win solution, and then we'll come
Thank
back
you.
a year from now and
Appreciate it.
and go with that.
Thank you for your input.
Mhm.
Next.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Bettina Eastman. I'm a wildlife biologist, and I actually am a longtime member of Sea and Sage Audubon. I grew up in Costa Mesa. I grew up right across the street from Estancia Adobe Park. So I'm very familiar with the historic area of Fairview Park and Lower Talbot Preserve. I used to run around and play with frogs and do all that fun stuff when I was a kid. We do, Sea and Sage Audubon, think it's a great idea to have this one-year evaluation period to see the impacts of, or to formally understand what impacts there are to wildlife. I personally go birding to Fairview Park quite a bit because I live just down the hill in Huntington Beach by Edison High School. I have seen negative impacts with airplanes and birds. I have heard stories of flyers every day through the vernal pools, and that included this winter when we had quite a bit of water, and the use of that vernal pool by other wildlife like migratory birds and such was impossible because of the aerial impacts from model airplanes. I've also seen quite a few drones flying over the park where I thought, it was my understanding, and Cynthia, you can correct me, that drones weren't allowed at the park. I thought that was even in the kiosk, that drones aren't allowed to fly, but aerial aircraft is. So that might be one of my misunderstandings. But we, as far as safety, we were birding one morning and we went to get in the car and we were driving out of the park, and here comes this huge model airplane, and it crashed right next to our car, right just feet from the driveway of the parking lot. So there are some concerns, and so we would be glad to work with Cynthia and others to try to evaluate more impacts. But we have historic raptors nesting just below in the bluff zone that are really impacted in Orange County and disappearing from Orange County, like the white-tailed kite. So there are things that we're concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions or?
Thank you very much, Ms. Eastman. I appreciate the offer of assistance, and I think that that would be a wonderful partnership.
Yeah.
So I thank you very
We'll
much.
definitely have a comment letter at least.
Great. Thank you. Anyone else? At this time, I will close public comments and open up to commissioner comments or commissioner input. Does anyone have any questions for the report, Ms. DAgosta, regarding the report? Commissioner Rutherford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you all for your comments. I do have a few questions just relaying some of the concerns that we've heard, also some of the concerns that were communicated to us. My first question is just for this AMA study, I'm looking at the other one for the Raptor Center, it's dated 2002. Is there a date for this document from AMA on impact of ecology? Just trying to make sure we're getting just the most recent data about impacts on wildlife ecology.
The one with the AMA logo on it
Yeah.
is talking about the environmental impact. The other one is written by one with a raptor on the top of it. It's written by a biologist, a professor at the University of Minnesota.
Do you have a date for the one that has the AMA logo? Do you know the
This
date
one
of that
was-
document?
No, I don't have the date. I can get it for you though, and I will.
That would be helpful. And then just along that same vein, Miss Eastman, if you have any documentation, recent studies, that's really helpful as well.
No, this has been expanding over years, the amount of planes flying and that type of thing. And of course now with the habitat restoration, which from what I understand that is also a requirement from Fish and Wildlife that restoration happen. So I don't know that we have any long-term studies, but just from my experience, it seems to be increasing the interactions between the birds and the airplanes. So I don't have any personal studies, or I wouldn't be prepared with that at this time.
I can email you some informal CNSage bird studies.
I think, again, one of the reasons for asking for time to look at this is that there are studies that exist that we can call up, and staff will be reviewing those, and then our questions would go to Audubon and to AMA, and we would digest them, the studies over time. And I do know that they do exist. I've seen some, for instance, on the burrowing owl out of Santa Clara up in the Bay Area recently on the impacts of flights to them. And I think with the increase in drone use, there has been more studies done. So I personally haven't had time to review them, and I would like to, with Audubon and with others.
Okay, so that's a plan, is to
Yes.
review the literature, go through this process over a
Exactly.
one-year period. Very
Yeah,
cool.
thank you. I think Henry had a question.
Commissioner Erickson.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll just make a personal, I'm not out there all the time, but I have never, and I've been coming out there for 10 years, I've never, ever once seen any radio-controlled flying machine interfere with a bird.
Okay.
Now, I'm not out there all the time, I'm only out there about 4 hours a week. But I've been out there for 10 years, so that's one comment.
Okay.
And another comment is, I happen to have a pilot's license. I'm not current, and I haven't told me for years, but I have a pilot's license. So when I learned to fly, I learned to fly at the airport out in Hammond. And the favorite little thing out there in Hammond was there was burrowing owls all over the airport because they like airports. Because that's where they can get at the rabbits, because the weeds are only this high. And the little burrowing owls would sit on the runway lights and laugh at us because we can't fly anywhere near as well as they can.
Okay.
But airplanes don't
Thank you.
interfere with burrowing owls.
No.
They've been.
I appreciate-
Los Angeles Times paper article the other day that said the latest big colony of burrowing owls is Los Angeles Airport.
Okay.
So-
I would like to thank you for your input, and at this time, we are doing commissioner comments, so it's actually not an interactive part of the meeting, and so we have, the commissioners will be interacting with staff to address the item on the agenda. So Commissioner Erickson.
Sure, just a couple observations. Thank you all for your input, from everyone from the public. Appreciate it a lot. What I'm sensing from this is there's a lot of tribal knowledge about the park and the Soaring Society and the Audubon Society, and that can bring us to a certain point. But empirical research and a time-lapsed study would really bring us to a concrete understanding of the conditions in our city. A lot of what we've read is general and probably makes some really good points, but they're based on studies that weren't done here. And I'm enthused by the idea that we can look at this for an entire year so that we can analyze the impact on all users of the park, including the Soaring Society, across the 4 seasons of the year as it pertains to weather patterns and so on. And how the space is being used when it's not being used by the Soaring Society, because this is an open field, and when an airplane's not landing on it, a dog could run off leash on it. So we get a chance for the next 12 months to actually look at all of that and draw some concrete solutions, or conclusions, I should say, from our observations. So that's why I think this is a very well thought out process.
Okay, any other commissioner comments?
I just had a question. So tonight we're voting on just the recommendation for the city council to do the comprehensive
Right.
evaluation.
We are not the deciding body on this.
Correct.
We make a recommendation.
That's correct. So in doing that recommendation to the city council, how is it going to be done where all of this input that you're seeing from all these groups is going to be included into this comprehensive report? What is the process for that?
Are you asking for the report to the council in June or beyond that?
Beyond that, so within this year's time, how are we going to make sure all of these groups have the input that they want to provide?
My intent is with staff assistance, but with partnering with the organizations that have an interest in this, putting on public forums so that we can have more of the users be involved in the commentary, and then that will be presented as part of the analysis. So at my expectation is at the end of probably 9 months from now, we will have a report that then will include the minutes from this meeting as well as all of the public commentary that we've received. And that, much like you would, in a draft environmental document, you get all the public comments at the end of it, and that would be all be available and incorporated.
And where will that be conducted, the public forum, after the 9 months? Is that at the city council meeting or separate from that?
We will go through this process again. So it would first come to the Fairview Park Steering Committee. And again, that's for a recommendation that then comes forward to council. Then it would come to this body for a review again, and then it would go to council again. So we'll repeat these steps in a year with all of that information and data.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that it will be important if this motion passes through the council, that we have very concrete scheduled meetings, either bi-weekly, monthly, something like that, so we stay on task so that the research gets completed, because there are certain compatibility issues. I believe that, we need to determine whether or not it meets the standards that are set forth by Measure AA, and it's not clear that that it does so. So there are, potentially other locations in nearby spaces that, the Soaring Society could potentially use if this is found that it is not a compatible use for Fairview Park. The other thing that I would like to encourage is to try to get these unregistered members, licensed or permitted pilots, to join the Harbour Society, because I think that it would give them a stronger vested interest in being good stewards of the park. I do have concerns about some flying that goes on. I heard a couple different people mention that particular flight on Saturday that was buzzing around during the I Love Costa Mesa Day. And while I'm sure it's pretty fun and exciting to be zipping around your plane at a hot shot level, that's not what I think is that is not a compatible use with Fairview Park. And my guess is that flyer was probably not a member of the Soaring Society. So does anyone else have any other questions, or does anyone want to make a motion?
Could I ask a few questions?
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to ask about Measure AA compliance. How will that be evaluated as this goes forward for the year?
A technique that the steering committee adopted last year when we began the process of looking at capital improvement projects and how to evaluate them through Measure AA. So we came up with 2 tables that we use that legal counsel helped develop to take an issue and step it through these 2 tools, if you will. One is a chart and the other is a checklist. So I can demonstrate those to you and show you. That's where we would start. And then there is also, with each action item or each activity that's going on at Fairview Park, I am in constant evaluation with city legal counsel for interpretation along the way. So they will have input in how we do that. And then again, that's a discussion that I think that I know the Fairview Park Alliance, of which Ms. Hendricks is a board member, had played a big part in the bringing Measure AA forward. So a conversation at one of their board meetings, I think at least one conversation, would be in order. So there are various ways in which we will evaluate it, but we'll start with those tools, and I should probably share those with you.
And then will this trigger CEQA? Will there be a CEQA review, or will it not trigger CEQA?
The agreement, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
This agreement will not. Now, there is question about the environmental document that was done for the master plan originally, and that is still what's in place. So part of the steering committee's process of evaluating the master plan and making recommendations for changes, I very strongly believe will deal with creating a new environmental document for the master plan. And so uses will be folded into that.
Gotcha. And then just looking at the staff report that was provided, looks like use, or at least permitted use, has been steadily declining since 2017. Is that true? Number of permits issued?
Yes.
Okay.
Again, there was a rise in the permit costs in 2017 that I think we may have seen some people be upset about that and not reapply. Otherwise, I don't really understand where the change in use is coming from. But yeah, there's a decline.
Okay, thank you for answering those questions. I just want to say that while I understand there's different concerns with this, I appreciate the folks that have spoke about this tonight. I think this is an important part of youth engagement, and engagement in the community is for people to have this opportunity to participate in a program like this. I definitely appreciate all the work you and city staff have done in evaluating this program to make a nice middle ground here where the program can be evaluated. So I'm going to be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Certainly, go right ahead. Commissioner DeCiccio.
I had another couple questions just about this yearly evaluative period. Within this yearly evaluative period, will there be grading of that runway?
There has not been grading of that runway in the last year and a half at least, maybe 2 years now, and there will not be. Measure AA very clearly specifies that no grading will occur in Fairview Park.
Okay, thank you.
And that is, I'm sorry, in the new agreement has left grading out.
Okay, thank you. And I also wanted to see in this yearly evaluative period, will it be evaluated and addressed how to deal with unpermitted activity?
That is one of the bigger challenges, I think, that as a department we've talked about is the enforcement issue, and it certainly has come up through U.S. Fish and Wildlife's comments as well, that we need to have methods of being better about that. Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, and I can speak to that a little bit more as well. So through the one-year research process, right now what's up for the commission to decide on or to recommend to City Council is specific to the HSS agreement, but we may have, through the research process, find that we may need to change and address other types of permitting processes or just protocol for our department as a whole, the fly field as a whole. But we can't do that or take any action on that until this research is done, which is why we're recommending the one-year evaluation period.
Thank you.
Also, if it is found to be an incompatible site for many of the reasons stated in this yearly review process, will there be research as to look for other possible sites and even an action plan to provide alternative sites?
Do you want to go first? Yes, there will be. However, it is not our responsibility to find another site, but given the longevity of the use and the regional aspect of this, we feel compelled to help try to find something. And so we've already had some conversations, and I've certainly had conversations with members of HSS about other sites that are being looked at locally now and how we might pursue those in the future.
Who would be in charge of finding and implementing a project for those other sites?
HSS. That's my understanding. I mean, that's who's affected by this. Now, that leaves us with the other permitted flyers who are not HSS members, hoping to bring them into the conversation during this public outreach so that there will be more of a body of people that can pursue that.
And I would also make mention that the terms of the next permits that will be issued on January 1st will only last for 6 months, so that they would not, if the city council and other our commission and the Fairview Park Steering Committee finds that it is not a compatible use, therefore, the term ends in 1 year, the permits would also end at that time. And did you have another comment, Ms. Aguilar?
That was it. But to Commissioner DeSico's point is this process, the reason that we're doing this is to engage the community and make sure that, and we'll utilize our marketing team, our communications team to make sure that we get the word out, that we're reaching out to all parties that are interested in participating and submitting their feedback through the research process.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes, quick clarification on the permit fees, what they fund, and then if you know why they were increased.
I wasn't here at that time. I
Yeah.
don't know why they were increased, but
They are a revenue source for the department, and it's how we're able to subsidize our programming in the department. So for the city as a whole, and as far as the increase in fees, that's just something that's taken to our commission, and just because of the increase in use and just increased costs as a whole.
Thanks. May I make a motion?
You may.
I'd move to approve the recommendations as set forth by staff.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? I will call for the question.
Motion carries 4-0.
Can I add a quick comment, Chair McNabb?
Pardon me?
Can I add a quick comment, Chair McNabb?
Certainly.
I just want to add that for all of you, if there's anything you want to send, it sounds like there have been some issues with the city website. So if you need our email addresses for me or any other commissioners, please talk to us afterwards. Thank you.
Okay. Are we ready to move along?
Yes. Item 11, maintenance project updates.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. First, I'd like to apologize. Apparently, my flash drive was the one that crashed the system, and we can't get it working.
Oh, gal.
And also, yeah, there's always that guy.
Troublemaker Linneman. It's that Linneman guy. He's such a rebel-azzer.
So I'm kind of bummed about that because one of the first items I was going to show was the Pinkley Park Playground that was just recently completed. And it was in November. The design was approved by this commission. And in my presentation that we won't see, we'll see how it turned out so close to the design, to the actual installation. And we're really proud of it.
Thank you. We'll pause for just one moment.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming this evening. Good night. All
Yeah,
right, I think that looks good.
And I wanted to thank the commission. We brought forth a couple of designs. The designs were selected. It is now the first playground with a shade structure. It actually came out better than we had anticipated. Has more elements. It has wound up with 28 elements on it. And the butterfly design looks just like the butterfly design. So it was a very successful project. And if you have kids, I think it's brand new, so it's a great time to visit it before it gets all used up. So that was one of I had a couple pictures on that and wanted to thank you and let the commissioners know how important your input is when you make a recommendation. That I think of all the designs, that was the best design, and it turned out we got the best contractor as well. The next on there was the Smallwood Park rubberized surface replacement, which I would have showed you some before and after pictures of how the condition was. The sand had impacted the rubberized surface. Rubberized surface had been worn. Sand next to rubberized surface causes compaction issues, and the rubberized surface will lose its pliability. So we had removed all the sand, replaced all the rubberized surface with new rubberized surface, and it was a nice color, and you can't see that. And we put they're eco-friendly and kid-friendly wood chips in place of the sand. The next project was, that was the Davis Field Parkway project, where we removed 1,500 yards of turf and replaced it with drought-tolerant landscaping, including lantana, dianella, carice, and several other drought-tolerant plants. And it kind of blends with the new library parks projects landscaping, as well as the downtown rec center's landscaping out front. Another one of the projects that you would have seen here are some of the medium projects that we've been working on. And it's Adams Avenue, which had once again, we removed some water-hungry plants that had grown quite old and had suffered from the traffic there, and we replaced them with some drought-tolerant landscaping. Basically, it's the same sort of thing. It's the Dantanella, Carice, and dwarf lantana. And we also did completed that just recently as well in the Smalley median. And then there were a couple pictures that would have been the regular maintenance manager's report, where we had some repairs of benches and broken benches in Estancia Park, as well as replacement of swings at several parks and some playground equipment that had rusted and been damaged. And with that, since we're missing all the 15 pages of pictures, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Linneman.
And I will make the report available. It actually works on my computer, so I will forward it to you in a safe, non-infected, no virus flash drive on your email.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Linneman? Thank you very much.
Item 12, Parks and Community Services Director's Report.
Thank you, Chair McNabb and members of the commission. I am not as good with the off-the-cuff presentation, so I have a script that I will be reading. As mentioned in the presentation earlier this evening, the city's spring session of the Recreation and Community Services activities and programs is now underway, with more than 250 classes and dozens of additional program and event offerings. The Rocks after-school program is wrapping up soon and will have nearly 1,200 youth enrolled before the year's end, which is pretty remarkable. The LEAP program will also be concluding soon, having filled nearly to capacity with 78 participants in this year's program, with the 4 to 5 year age class having filled to 40 participants. The Youth Sports Spring Volleyball program had nearly 50 participants this season. Upon season's end on May 11th, the Youth Sports program continues to grow as well. The Mobile Rec program served nearly more than 300 youth last month by bringing play, homework help, and mentorship to several neighborhoods throughout the city. The program continues to visit Shalimar Park, Tewinkle Park, Lions Park, and the Fillmore area neighborhood. Additionally, the mobile recreation band made a special appearance at last month's Excitement event, where 75 youth enjoyed the service and where more than 600 participants enjoyed the event. The teen program continues to grow across its 3 locations, with more than 200 registered participants this school year. Attendance at each center for the month was between 200 to 400 participants. The teens also had the opportunity to partake in a beach cleanup event. Nearly 30 teens participated in the cleanup at Seal Beach. The following week, teens participated in a Fairview Park cleanup, where the teens had the daunting task of pulling and dumping invasive mustard plants, which was followed by an educational nature hike around the park. Animal care services staff, along with our animal shelter and adoption service providers, saw more than 100 animals enter and exit our city animal care system during the month of April, with 20 animals being adopted and 15 others being directly reunited with their owners. The live release rate for the program remains high at 93%, and since the city began working with both vendors. Earlier this month, the city hosted its Spring Bark Bash event, which was mentioned earlier, where local vendors specializing in pet care and education shared their resources. The event, which drew in nearly 200 people during the program, included a costume contest, which will be highlighted in the Spring at a Glance presentation in the coming months. The spring season of youth and adult sports is in high season, with the use of city and school district fields taking place 7 days per week on sites spread across the city. With this, there are nearly 20 youth leagues utilizing field space and more than 100 adult softball teams playing weekly. The field allocation meeting for fall 2019 was held yesterday and went well. Rest and renovation for a majority of the field is scheduled for June through August. The Senior Center continues to see an average of 200 seniors per day, with more activities and offerings than ever before. Special recognition was given for volunteers of the Senior Center, who were celebrated at the Volunteer Appreciation Dinner on April the 24th. The theme, We Hit the Jackpot with You, recognized outstanding volunteers who dedicate their time, effort, energy, and resources to continue making the Senior Center programs a success. The City of the Arts continues to showcase the talents of our artists through the Youth Art Gallery at City Hall, the exhibit gallery at the Senior Center, and the Art on the Fifth showcase at City Hall. Of special note, be sure to view the online video series that profiles local artists. Currently, the series features 5 diverse and personal episodes. With the summer months upon us, the gardening program has kicked off a special Master Gardener presentation series. In April, more than 45 gardeners learned to garden in small spaces and enjoyed some time in the sun as they learned about maximizing garden space and productivity. As has been mentioned throughout the evening, the ribbon cutting and grand opening of the Lions Park Library will take place tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The LEAP program is planned to include a special appearance from the program is planned to include a special appearance from our very own LEAP participants, and we're excited about the reactivation of the Lions Park area and the west side of Costa Mesa. Love Costa Mesa took place on Saturday, the 18th of May, and the City Parks and Community Services Department hosted 3 events at Canyon Park and Fairview Park for restoration projects and a special cultural arts project where they painted the sidewalks along Anaheim Avenue. As we look ahead to June, I see that we have one of our fellow commissioners who was recently appointed. We will be welcoming our 2 newest commissioners, Charlene Ashendorf and Kelly Frager, who were appointed as the liaisons to the Senior Center and to the Arts and Culture Initiatives, respectively. Ms. Ashendorf and Ms. Frager will each be joining us on the June 27th meeting for the PAX Commission. And finally, along the same lines, we are looking forward to our future commission meetings, which are anticipated to be held at the city's newly renovated City Council chambers beginning in June. And with that, I'd like to conclude my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. That is most thorough, and so much going on in our city that I think it's really wonderful that we have all these offerings. So thank you very much for the update. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for Ms. Aguilar?
Yes, Madam Chair, perhaps you could answer this. As part of the report, we're given a police department monthly report on activities in the park, and saw a number of CMMC 4.3 citations, which is a lack of bicycle license. So if you can speak to the topic, can you educate me at least on what that citation entails? Is it in a sense a fix-it ticket, go and get a license? Is it a monetary fine? What is that?
I don't have that information, but
Yeah.
I am more than happy to look into that and get that for you.
Okay, thank you. And as a follow-up, I know we're having a big bike event in June at the Lions Park. If police will be out doing the bike licensing offer at that event.
We will speak to them and ask them about that. We're still in the process of coordinating that event, but we
Okay.
can definitely make that request.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Certainly. Commissioner Rutherford.
Thank you, Chair McNabb. Just a quick question following up Commissioner Erickson's comment. So it looks right below the bike license requirement. Municipal Code 436A says bicycles not parked within bicycle racks. Is there a citation process if you don't park, like let's
Yes,
say the bike rack is full, right? You're going to get cited for parking?
Yes, there is a citation, but most times it's just going to be a warning for the first several offenses. What it is to prevent bikes from being locked against trees, signs, and other. I think we are supplying bike racks, as at almost every park now has them, and that citation usually comes with a warning first.
Is that enforced at parks where there's no bike rack?
We'd have to get a park ranger or a PD to confirm how that is enforced at those locations.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing further, then we can adjourn at this time. I would like to wish everyone a very respectful Memorial Day, Happy Father's Day, and we look forward to seeing you back in council chambers on June 27th. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.